Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. I'm your old pal Emac coming to you on a Tuesday morning with one Adam Ship My Money Share as we record the podcast prior to kickoff of Monday Night Football because Adam, your team is playing. Are you ready to watch the game?
Yeah, pretty excited for it. Obviously, really important game, so hopefully everything goes well.
That would be crucial. It's crucial for multiple reasons. One, Lofty's an Eagles fan. You're a Washington fan. That's important. And with regards to playoff picture, whichever team loses this one is going to be in a major hole as they try to keep pace with the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, there's an outside chance at getting the wild card, but the Seahawks are going to be competing for the wild card, and that's my team, and they have one of the easier schedules down the stretch. So we are in that time where you got to look at all sorts of things, not just who your team is playing, but what the contenders are playing as well. But we're going to talk basketball. We got a nice little 5-gamer here for Tuesday. It will be tipping off at the usual time, and you've got a nicely concentrated group of games. We have Chicago at Indiana. We have Orlando at Miami. Both of those are our two slower games of the night with 210 and 209 respective point totals. We have Portland and Dallas. That's coming in at a 220 over-under. We have Sacramento at Utah. Neither one of these teams are what we thought they were. If we're drawing from the last 5 years of experience, things have changed dramatically for both of them. They have a 214 over-under. Gosh, Adam, I think, 3-4 years ago, this would have been 193.5, maybe?
Yeah.
And then we've got the high-flying, high-wire act, Sacramento at Phoenix. Sacramento, one of the league leading teams in pace, and Phoenix doesn't know what they're gonna do, but they're gonna get there fast while they do it. 226 over under. Sacramento, shockingly 6.5 over under again, or 6.5 point favorites with that 226 over under. This is one of those things where Sacramento are not exactly what we remember from the past. Looking at injuries, we have a few players that sat out on Sunday or were dealing with issues. Let me see here. Don't believe any of these teams are on a back-to-back, so none of them are playing Monday. We have Luka Doncic, who sat out on Sunday with a strained hip. We have Marvin Bagley Jr., who sat out on Saturday. He's been dealing with a sore back. We have Lauri Markkanen moving into the starting lineup. That, of course, is going to put Jabari Parker back to the bench. We'll talk about that. Markkanen's price has caught up on FanDuel. He, in his first game back, was the I've been injured minimum for 3,500. I want to say he's about 6,200 on DraftKings. He went up a couple ticks. He is now at 5,400. Continuing down to our other guys that are dinged up. Bellinelli was out of his last game, but he's probable. He's got a sore neck. Tyler Johnson has missed his last 6 with a hamstring issue, but he is probable. Dwight Powell has been dealing with fluid on his knee for the last 3 or 4 games. He is questionable, but he did play in the last game. I don't know if that was partially a function of Doncic and Maxi Kleber both being out. Kleber, speaking of Kleber, he has been dealing with the sore right knee. Right now he is questionable, but he has missed the last 2 games, so it wouldn't shock me if he was out. Evan Turner was out in his last game with sore Achilles, and he is listed as probable, so our mileage may vary. And then James Johnson dealing with a cold, and J.J. Barea was dealing with, he got a cut on his mouth. So even though he's listed as questionable, I suspect he will play. And then, Dennis Smith Jr., I just see it now. Dental procedure, Adam. Dental procedure. You know what that means? It means cavities or a root canal. Those are never fun.
Is he questionable?
He is questionable.
Okay.
All right. That gets us all of it. Talk us through point guard. Let's go by position here. Lead us off with the amazing Damian Lillard.
Yeah, nice spot for Lillard here. Going into Dallas, most expensive point guard on the slate. Price tag pushing 10K is not ideal, but we do know that he has 60 fantasy point upside. It is obviously only a 5-game slate, so raw points become a little bit more important. Obviously raw points are always important, but you can sacrifice a little bit in the way of points per dollar on shorter slates just to get top scorers in there, and there's no real studs to pay up for on this slate. So Pretty appealing spot for Lillard if you can get to him, and there is some value because of the Phoenix injuries.
All right. I just wanted to pull up to make sure I was correct on the time of Tuesday's games. We get a nice little stagger. We get a 7 o'clock start, 7:30 and 8:30, and then 2 at 9 o'clock. As we ran into the late news, the 1 minute after lock, Nikola Mirotic getting scratched because of an illness, we did have time to pivot because there was only one game that locked at 7 on Monday, and then we had a handful at 7:30 and then 2 more at 8 o'clock. It looks like we'll have a few outs with this one, which is always important because if you've got anybody that's questionable and they're sitting in the late night game and it's the only late night game, you're going to be limited to just players from that player pools. So you may not have enough salary if you're trying to go with the cheapie, or you may not have somebody at the right position or the best position for a switch. So if you're playing on any of the sites that have late swap, particularly DraftKings and Yahoo, you will want to keep that in mind. Looking up and down the remainder of the point guards, looks like this could be very well a save position outside of a couple tippy top options, and some of those guys also have multi-position eligibility. What do you think is going on here in Phoenix? I thought we were going to see decent performances from Okobo since they outright released Isaiah Cannon from – is it Cannon or Cannon?
Cannon.
From Phoenix. But he is just – he came out firing away, 33 DraftKings points. In his next game when he started, 19 DraftKings points. Then he came back off the bench, 9 DraftKings points, and he's averaging 30 minutes across these 3 games. It's a tale of 3 cities, I guess. There's been 3 outcomes: mediocre, excellent, and garbage. Where do you think we're going to see from him going forward? Because he is at the lovely low price point here of $4,400 on DraftKings.
I mean, I think Devin Booker being out obviously has a huge impact on everyone on this team, but that includes Okobo because it helps solidify his minutes for one, but you're just going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. He's going to be, running the offense without Booker. Without Booker or Warren on the floor this season, he has a 22.9% usage rate. He's only averaged 0.73 fantasy points per minute, but it's only 127-minute sample size. So I expect that the per-minute production would come up just based on, the usage rate and the 26% assist percentage that he has so far. Obviously a nice game in terms of pace as well. So I think he comes in, clearly as one of the best value options on the slate.
Thank you. Somehow I had missed that Booker is out with a hamstring. This is, I'm just reading it now. This is the second time this season he has injured his left hamstring. He expects to be out longer this time than last time. That's not good. The last thing I had heard was he had stubbed his toe on his bed in his hotel room, and it was a bad enough bruise that to alleviate the pressure, they had to drain it because under the nail that there had been some blood pooling. But holy cow, I did not realize he was out. Well, that's no bueno. That's not good for anybody here. So definitely we'll want to be considering Okobo. As we move back up the pricing list here, we've got Rubio going against the Spurs. You've got CJ McCollum there. Your mileage may vary. We liked him with Evan Turner out because he got to go back to using some of his ball handling ability there with the second unit. What do you like from either of those mid-tier guys?
Yeah, I mean, CJ McCollum, if you can't get up to Lillard price-wise, it makes sense just because he works his leverage against Lillard. If you get a monster game from CJ McCollum, it's likely that Damian Lillard is underperforming a bit. So in tournaments, it makes some sense there. But I would rather get to Lillard if I can.
All right, last guy that is appealing, particularly now that we don't have Booker, which now makes a lot more sense why the Kings are 6.5-point road favorites. De'Aaron Fox, he has been having himself a season, but we are seeing his price up near the high points for the year, up in this mid 7,000 range on DraftKings. Is he somebody that you think would make your short list?
I like De'Aaron Fox a lot as a player. I've been really impressed with him this season, but just looking at guys priced around him and where he sits, Probably not a priority at this position, just because you do have, Okobo is a really good value play. You have Dame Lillard as what's likely to be the highest scorer on the slate. Zach LaVine's only $900 more expensive on DraftKings as well. Luka Doncic is only $7,000 against Portland. So I think that Fox is a perfectly fine play, but it's more if he gets in my lineups, then I'm perfectly fine with it because I love the matchup. But it's not a price tag that really stands out.
All right, let's move over here to the 2 guard. Josh Richardson is the guy I'm curious for your thoughts on. He's at 7,000, but everybody or most everybody is healthy now. We should have Tyler Johnson back for the Heat. We know Dwayne Wade's been back for a couple of games. Magruder's a little dinged up, but there's not anybody really listed as out for the Heat that would impact him. Is 7,000 doesn't seem like a horrible price. I mean, yes, it's more expensive than we would have seen him in the spot last year where he would have been in the mid to low sixes, but he's definitely earned it. My question is, he has been playing in the 36 and above minute range for the better part of his last dozen games. Can he maintain that? Because he's definitely going to need to be on the court that much for him to be able to pay off this $7,000 price point.
Yeah, I would expect him to stay in the 34 to 36 minute range. I don't think that Johnson coming back should have an impact there. The playing time should be there for Richardson. So I think that there's not really a concern there. The bigger concern is just that this is kind of an unappealing game from, a pace standpoint.
All right. Speaking of unappealing, he hasn't burned us yet, Adam. Tyreke Evans. He has started the last 7 games. We know that Victor Oladipo is out indefinitely with his knee injury. He has yet to top 26 DraftKings points in any one of those starts. I don't think I will be going to him again, and I'm not going to feel like there is any fear of missing out going against Chicago. Buddy Hield is somewhat intriguing in an up-tempo game here. Evan Fournier's price has come down to the point where we always got to give him a look-see, but he's someone that hasn't necessarily had his performance at any point where we'd like to see it. What do you got here from mid-tier or the as we're approaching the bargain section here for the 2 guards?
I mean, I still have interest in Evans just because the price tag's nice. The usage is there. He's not going to keep shooting this bad forever, you wouldn't think. Not someone that I want my entire night to depend on, but, we're not the only ones that are tired of him not doing anything when we roster him. So it does keep his ownership down, which is nice. But I like the spot for Buddy Hield. Minutes are a little bit of a concern. Earlier in the season, we had him playing, 35, 36 minutes a night. With Bogdanovic getting back to his full role, you've seen Hield come back to, the 30-minute range. But the price tags come down a little bit, and Phoenix is just a very, very poor team defensively. So I think that, Hield makes for a pretty nice play.
All right, we continue through the position here. I don't think there's anybody I like, Adam. I'm gonna need some injuries. I'm gonna need something to shake out. JJ Barea did get the start in his last game. He's been relatively nice as a performer, but it looks like most everybody, as far as we can tell, will be back for the Mavs. He's at 5,000. It's going to be tough for him to get over on that price point, considering he has been getting there on points of all things. Usually he gets there with assists and steals, but I'm not really excited by him. Wayne Ellington, Tyler Johnson's back. It's another mouth to feed there. Oh, hello, Bojan Bogdanovic. Now he's sitting there at 5,600. He had a nice game in the Battle of the Bogdanoviches on Saturday with 34 fantasy points on the strength of 27 points scored. Is he someone that would be on your short list? Because I don't mind the matchup cure for him against Chicago.
Yeah, I think – I mean, for me, I still think Evans has a higher ceiling than Bogdanovic, but
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but I would like to see it when he's on my team. It doesn't do me any good if it happens when I don't have him.
Point taken.
But, the minutes are nice for Bogdanovic. It's obviously a good matchup. He does get a usage bump without Oladipo as well. So, I do think that Bogdanovic is a good play.
All right, let's use that as our leverage to get on over here to the small forward, since he does have multi-position eligibility, which is where we can get Bogdanovic, the Sacramento counterpart. Hey, Sacramento going against Phoenix should be a nice up and down game there. I like him. Talk to me a little bit about Aaron Gordon. No stranger to going against the Miami front court. He has missed a couple games here and there with his own injuries. He's back. He played 34 minutes against Phoenix in his last game, so that's good to see. Had a 18-6-3 line, no blocks, 1 steal. He's someone that we can start to consider again, and I potentially like him over there on the draft app, because he's someone that does not usually get people to click on his name.
Yeah, I mean, I think the price is okay, but the issue is that, for one, Orlando this season has had kind of a flatter rotation than a lot of teams in terms of the minutes that their starters play. There was a stretch where Aaron Gordon was playing, 38, 40 minutes in some games. But for the most part, we've seen that kind of come back to earth, especially with Jonathan Isaac healthy. And he's just not a super high usage guy either. Around 21, 22% this season. Vucevic, obviously, really the guy there. So I don't mind it if I get Gordon, but I think Josh Richardson projects a little bit better. I think that, you could go a little bit cheaper here with guys like Josh Jackson as well.
All right. That Josh Jackson was one of the names that was standing out to me here. Thoughts on well, let's just tackle it now. What do you like here with the rest of the Suns? Because we know that there's a couple voids that they are going to be filling here with T.J. Warren. Let's see. T.J. Warren is another guy I didn't mention, but he's listed as doubtful on the injury report, and there's a good chance that he won't play with his ankle injury. If both he and Booker are out, who of the understudies moves up here in the for the wings for the
I would really like Jackson. I think that he should play as many minutes as he can handle, assuming he doesn't turn the ball over 18 times or anything like that. But he's played 173 minutes this season without either of Booker or TJ Warren on the floor. Has a 30% usage rate, 19% assist percentage. He's averaged 0.8 fantasy points per minute, but that's with a 39.7% true shooting percentage that, even for someone who's not a great shooter, is lower than you would expect it to be over a larger sample. So it's really difficult not to like Josh Jackson here. Obviously he has his flaws, but this is also a game that I think suits him well because he's very athletic. He can get out in transition and do some damage, and it's a big pace-up spot for Phoenix. So I think Josh Jackson is the guy that I like the most, but you also should have Trevor Ariza playing, probably close to 40 minutes here. He's averaged only 2/3 of a fantasy point per minute without Booker or Warren on the floor. But, if you're going to play 40 minutes in a spot against the Kings, there's still plenty of, value there.
Yeah, is anybody ever excited to roster Trevor Ariza? Probably not. Did you play at all on Sunday? Did you get the second amazing Harrison Barnes game in a row when he?
No, I didn't play on Sunday.
Oh, you missed out because it was truly Harrison Barnes Day because so many people were missing for Dallas, and they were going to be in a reasonably up-tempo game there against the Clippers. He had season high 30 fantasy points. He splashed 3 3-pointers, had 9 rebounds. That's coming off his previous season high was on Friday, where he had 29 points against the Lakers. Boy, he wishes he could play those LA teams all the time. I really don't want to pay the price point for him. He does not have a ton of upside unless everybody else is off the floor. So I don't like him. But how are you going to approach the Jabari Parker going back to the bench? Now, remember at the beginning of the season that he was causing a bit of a stink, bit of an issue. They now have a new coaching situation there in Chicago after letting Fred Hoiberg go, and it sounds like Parker's going to be coming off the bench. Markkanen's going to be starting. How do you think he mentally handles that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough to go to Parker here because his price tag has come up as a result of playing really well and playing, 34, 36 minutes a night, sometimes more. Now going back to the bench, it's tough to project him for more than, around 30 minutes. So I think he just ends up being a little bit overpriced in a game against one of the slowest teams in the league.
Just trying to see it. There we go. Associate head coach Jim Boyan will be taking over. All right. Yeah, that's kind of going to be a mess there. I think Phoenix is going to be carrying the day here. As we crest to the top and then get ready to move on over to power forward, we have Demar Derozan as our last guy. Now, he is someone that has the assists are starting to come down just a little bit, which we figured that would regress from what we had seen the beginning of the season. He's still having one of the best passing games of his career, so that is pretty nice. But we've seen the three-headed monster there with Forbes, White, and Patty Mills kind of taking back over the reins of the distributing. What do you got here with DeMar DeRozan? Is it going to be some double Ds on Tuesday for you?
I mean, I don't mind them, but again, just not a price point where I'm really excited to force him in the lineups. I just think that he's priced pretty correctly here. Utah obviously hasn't been a great team defensively this year, but it's still a slow-paced game. It's not a very appealing game, and I think that his price tag just kind of puts him in like no man's land when there's a lot of guys cheaper that I'm interested in.
All right, I'm going to feel it the same way about some of our power forwards here. It's actually kind of thin up near the top. We have Lamarcus Aldridge, similar reasons that you just mentioned there for Double D, that I am not really interested in him. 7,600 is a relatively fair price, but I don't really want to go there. We kind of said, yeah, not so much on Aaron Gordon. I'd like to play Bagley, but he's coming off that back injury, so we'll have to have a contingency plan if we don't know. He was a game-time decision that ended up sitting on Saturday, but we do have Sabonis here. Now, Sabonis sorely disappointed me on Saturday. He just had a horrid game. He wasn't looking for his shot. He was not rebounding. He had foul trouble. It was just like the confluence of crappiness. But he was coming off a stretch where he had 6 40 fantasy point games in the mid-40s out of 8 prior to that game. I was kind of all in with him on the majority of my squads. I'm going back to him in this one. I still think it's a good one. I like him a lot for his efficient rebounding, and I think that that's something that he's going to continue throughout the year, and I'm okay with that against Chicago. How are you feeling about Sabonis? I know this is one of the guys that you like to look to a lot, both to see what he's doing, seeing what is going on with Turner and what's going on with their respective rotations there.
Yes, I mean, the issue with Sabonis is what it's always been, and it's that it's tough to get more than 24 to 26 minutes out of him because of the presence of Miles Turner and, just the rotation that Indiana runs. But it is a great spot. He's a very, very good rebounder, and Chicago is just one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. On top of that, without Oladipo on the floor, you have an uptick in assists from Sabonis. You have plenty of usage, about a 26% rebounding percentage. So on a per-minute basis, he's a monster, and it's a great matchup for him. So I like him in tournaments. It's just you have to keep in mind that, whenever someone's going to play, kind of like we talked about with Trevor Ariza, where he's not expected to be that productive on a per-minute basis, but if you're going to play 40 minutes, there's a lot that can go right. It's the opposite here for Sabonis, where he should be very productive, but if you're only going to play 24 to 26 minutes, it doesn't take a lot going wrong for it to just kind of ruin your night when you're talking about someone at $7,200.
All right, let's move along here to the pivot position. We're looking at our centers. I'm buying myself a moment of time here because I want to look at what the past history is between Vucevic and Hassan Whiteside. All right, so in his last 6 games where they've both played, the last game that was earlier this year in October, he had a mere 28 DraftKings points. The other 5 times he's been above 44, and he's been between 44 and 50. That's pretty solid. He is coming off a stretch where from most recent to starting first, 54 fantasy points against Phoenix in Phoenix, 45 fantasy points in Portland, 57 fantasy points in Golden State, 71 fantasy points in Los Angeles. This has been one hell of a West Coast swing for Vooch. Do you think he keeps that momentum heading into Miami on Tuesday?
Yeah, I like Vooch here just because, Whiteside can be good defensively as a rim protector, but he's not as good against guys who can pull him away from the basket and knock down, mid-range shots and three-pointers. And that's what Vooch can do. So I think that there is plenty of upside here for Vucevic. Offensively, I think he should be perfectly fine. And with there not really being superstars on this slate, it shouldn't be that difficult to find the money for him. So I do like Vucevic quite a bit here.
Now that gave me a chance to reverse my query here because I wanted to see. All right, that's the exact same reason I'm thinking about it. We got Vooch that pulls the guys out towards the 3-point line. With Whiteside, they've left him in. So this is the last 6 games that he has faced off against Vucevic when Vooch has played. He has played at least 30 minutes in all of them, and he is averaging 36 minutes per game. That's pretty darn good. In that same number or that same time frame, he is averaging, or he's cleared 40 fantasy points in all 6 of these games, and he's averaging, let's see, eyeballing it here, probably about 49 fantasy points per game. That's pretty darn good, Adam. I think we have to consider Whiteside just a little bit. Now, he has been a little bit dinged up. He's been dealing with sore back, and the foul issues have reared their head from time to time. And again, wait for it, sometimes he and Coach Spo hate each other, but that's some pretty damn good production there historically going against Vooch. Thoughts on him from a present day lens, because we know that past performance is no guarantee of future performance.
Yeah, I just think the price tag on him is low enough that it gives you a ton of upside. He's someone that when he's expensive, I'm fine finding other options because he is volatile in that his minutes can fluctuate at times. He has a quality backup in Bam Adebayo that occasionally can steal some minutes from him. He has his own issues sometimes with just performance. So he's a volatile player, but I do think that if he is going to get, around 34 minutes, which is what he played on Sunday, it's just too cheap of a price tag for him. So, not a must play or anything because it is, even though it's a 5-game slate, it's still a pretty deep center position. But, I think that he does have an enormous ceiling here.
All right, let's finish it off with these two guys. They're squaring off against each other. They're $100 apart on DraftKings. Willie Cauley-Stein and DeAndre Ayton. I'm not enticed by either one of them. With Ayton, I'm a little bit worried because who is going to be handling the ball and who else is going to be causing the other team to not focus on him? Well, it's the guys we've mentioned, Josh Jackson, Trevor Ariza. So they're not going to exactly scare anybody with their scoring capabilities. So to me, that feels like there could be more attention to the rookie Ayton here. Willie Cauley-Stein on the other side, it's oftentimes tough to trust him because I can never anyway get the best read on him. And I'm just seeing several other options for just a couple $100 more that I would like to go to on DraftKings. Do you like either of those guys at all?
Yeah, I really like both of them.
Okay, good. This is good because the price is odd. Makes me look at it, but I did a little game log watching, Adam. So talk me out of the game log watching, me and the rest of the fish. Our loyal listeners.
For Cauley-Stein, the issue you run into is that, he loses minutes when he gets in foul trouble or the Kings blow someone out or get blown out or whatever. But in competitive games where he doesn't get into foul trouble, he's normally playing 32 to 34 minutes. Marvin Bagley potentially being back doesn't really impact that because the minutes that Bagley plays at center are generally in place of Harry Giles, not in place of Cauley-Stein. So he should play 32 to 34 minutes here as long as he doesn't get himself in foul trouble. And he's over a point per minute producer at a $6,400 price tag in a very, very favorable matchup against DeAndre Ayton and the Suns, who Ayton is much more of an offensive presence at this point in his career than defensive. And Cauley-Stein should be able to, have a pretty good game on a per minute basis. And then on the other side, it's a pace-up game for DeAndre Ayton, and he's someone that not only can he score, but he can contribute assists. He obviously rebounds as well. So the extra possessions, are very beneficial for him. He's played 129 minutes without Booker or Warren on the floor this season, averaged 1.08 fantasy points per minute with a 23.7% usage rate, 18% assist percentage, 17.5% rebounding percentage, 61% true shooting percentage. So at least so far, he's been efficient despite not having Warren and Booker out there to draw attention away from him. I just think that, the price tag's too low for what should be an increased offensive role for DeAndre Ayton.
All right. I have to mention one other person because I would be remiss not to. And I don't ever think about him. And every time I see him do well in the box score, I say, oh gosh, when did he join the Suns? That would be Rashon Holmes, Adam. They're going to be down a ton of players here. There could be some trickle-down effect in the rotation. He has topped 20 fantasy points in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of his last 8 games. He is $3,800 on DraftKings. He has been doing this while averaging just 17 minutes per game. A lot of it is coming from blocks, but that's okay because we know that Willie Cauley-Stein should allow him to block at least 1 or 2 of his shots. What do you think here as our rock bottom discount dandy as we get on out of here? Rashon Holmes, I present to you on a platter.
I mean, he's still not playing minutes next to DeAndre Ayton is the problem. So if Ayton's going to play, if we assume Ayton plays like 32 minutes, that's only giving you like 16 for Holmes. It's obviously a matchup where I think he should be productive on a per minute basis. It is a big Kings front court as well, which, could potentially help. I'm more interested on DraftKings because you have power forward eligibility at, almost a minimum price tag, but you just have to keep in mind that a lot can go wrong.
All right. It's true, but as we're looking for a little bit of placeholder value, I think I've got my guy here. Apparently, I will be loading up on that game. Hey, how would you like to get a free annual subscription to Awesemo.com? I'm going to tell you how to do that. So you're going to listen for the next 30 seconds. You can get a free NFL for the rest of the season, and how we're doing that is we're doing the 24 days of giveaways. Don't worry, I'll get to the grand prize in just a second. All you have to do is leave a comment on the YouTube comment page or on our iTunes comment page, depending on how you are listening to our podcast, and tell us what your favorite Christmas holiday dinner is. What is your favorite? Because it can't be turkey. We just did turkey. So we know everybody's getting together. It could be getting together for Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it may be. But, Festivus for the rest of us. But what is your favorite holiday meal for this time of year? So put that in the comments, and what we're going to do is we're going to get all those comments, and we're randomly going to give one of you guys or gals a NFL subscription for the rest of the year. And we're doing this for 24 days. This is 24 days of giveaways. Everybody that does a comment, not in the chat, but on the YouTube page or on the iTunes page, will be put in a drawing. And on December 24th, yes, as Santa is making his way around the globe, we will give one person a free full year subscription to Awesemo.com. Pretty good deal there. So jump on in and do that. Give us a nice little 5-star rating while you're at it. Give us a little thumbs up there on YouTube. It does help us in the algorithms, and we appreciate it greatly. With that, Adam, I think we can get on out of here. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. I am at EMACDFS. And, of course, it is at Awesemo_COM over there on the Twitter world. With that, gamers, good luck.